It's Tia. It's been a Mississippi minute, but we bite, baby.
What's up, Pink Posse? It's your girl Ja, and yup, we back at it like a crack addict.
It's your girl Jiggy, aka Tanika. Listen, pull up on us. It's time to cut up, cause we back.
What's up, Pink Posse? It's your girl Kogi, and we're back. Pink Sunday Radio.
I think we should start with the postcards.
Okay, go off to you.
Mm-hmm. So I think I don't even know if I know anybody in life. Well, okay, I take that back. I've sent postcards to people that collect postcards, like people collect like shot glasses, postcards, and stuff like that. But I don't know anyone like in my life that's been a form of communication. I think this ties very well into the idea that Murda was raised by grandparents and has probably, you know how Unc said she had been sitting in the paint since, she was yay high. I think also not just Murda was raised by his grandmother, but I can see it being like spades parties and stuff like that, and he just generally interacted with older people for a good portion of his like young life. And so I'm thinking something like that, grandmother or just the older influences in his life. Because do y'all know people that send postcards?
Not in what
Yes.
was supposed to be. What's that? 2020? Yeah, I know.
Yes, I do. So for me, this is what I was thinking. There was a lot of sending postcards in the war days. And so, or like if you were in the army, if you were in the service, I'll just say that, in the service, because there's a lot of traveling, right? And so there was a lot of sending postcards back home wherever you were stationed. So in my mind, I was just like, the idea of Murda being a whole, yes, but also, like you said, him being raised by a grandmother, hearing stories, and so me being imaginary and all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh my God, what if his, grandpa, great grandpa, he was told those stories of the whole notebook idea, right? Like having a love back home, you went off to war, and you sent postcards back home to your loved one. I know it's very like romantic and very, but I kind of like the idea that an old soul would think of something like that because Cliff is an older woman, and I could just see him doing something like that, so creative to try to reach out. Like, what can I do to separate myself? What can I do as Lamarcus to reach out? She ain't answering my text. She didn't answer the door. Like, what could I do to make her feel a little special that could connect with her? And I was just like, yes, that's very, very old. She's not that fucking old, Murda. However, I feel like in his mind that would be something really special that I think he would like really touch her heart a little bit. And as you could see, it was. It was. And then the touch of New Orleans in a jukebox, I mean, that was very Murda. Of course he would do that. But in my mind, that's kind of what I think.
So for me, were you finished? I'm sorry. Excuse me. Ooh,
I was. That's the only reason why I thought about it. What made me think about it is, I think I was talking to my grandfather, and we were reminiscing about my grandmother is no longer here, but we were just reminiscing about his love and They have been together since high school, very, very long, and he was in the Korean War, and just all that kind of the love story that all. I mean, if you just think about our elderly Black generation who have been through wars and all the stories that come from that, the love letters, the postcards, things of that nature. There's so much rich stories there. So I would like to just be all romantic and think of how Murda would think to even do that type of stuff. So I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
So I feel like, so no, I wouldn't ordinarily think about sending a postcard, right? Like that wouldn't probably be on my mind heading out on the trip. Except I have heard people say, hey, send me something back. Like even on our recent trip to Atlanta, my children were like, hey, send me something back, or bring me a souvenir or something. And to be honest, a lot of times, especially now, souvenirs are ridiculously priced because they know that people go places and they want magnets, they want keychains, they want something to, to just think of the trip, or like they want something back from your travels because maybe they don't have that experience. So I'm thinking with Murda is, she hasn't been answering calls. She stood behind the door, but he wants to keep her abreast of what he's doing, where he's going, the sights he's seeing. Plus, we kind of have an idea that Uncle Clifford hasn't been anywhere outside of Chucalissa, maybe as far as Jackson or something really close, but as far as we know.
That's a good one too, John. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Huh? Oh, yeah. So
sorry, that
maybe,
was a good one too. Yeah.
I didn't understand what you said, but now I heard you. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So I think that maybe that wouldn't have necessarily been the thought, but maybe in the moment, like you said, Kogi, with Murda being an old soul and Uncle Clifford not really being old, but it really seems like they treat her, and the idea is that, like, spiritually she's older, so he knows she would appreciate that sort of thing. And then he's like letting her know where he's at, where he's going, and probably hoping that these things keep him on her mind while he's gone without him harassing her with texts and stuff like that. So that's going to be my idea of why he thought about that, because, even though that's not really common, I could see me doing that, just if I wanted to show someone what I got to see.
I think it was funny to me. I think last week Tia mentioned, when we were talking about him being at the door, she mentioned about how he showed up and was doing the most, like he was about to go off to war, and it was kind of extra. I think maybe the show kind of put that metaphor in, because remember, he's not going off to war, but they are going off on a crazy tour at the height of the pandemic. And really, a lot of people during that time went outside to do random things, and, a couple of weeks later, they had succumbed. So, I mean, if this was in reality, if they had went off on this tour, it would have been likely some of them wouldn't have made it home. I mean, and they made it home, but like Rome didn't make it home, and Teak made it home, and he didn't stay home for long. So I think it was a way to kind of show that metaphor. They were off doing something dangerous. It was a tour, and it should not have been dangerous, but at the height of the pandemic, they really were off doing something. Multiple super spreader events is what I said on the timeline that tour should have been. So it really actually was dangerous what they had went off to do. But I also think the idea from the postcards, to me, came from what he saw at the door. I said last week that was the first time he really saw how hurt she was. I think it sent him scrambling for something to do. I think he really understood that he may have ruined something here. It was really the first time it was really serious, because those text messages that he had been sending, that was nonsense and foolishness, right? He was really sincere in his apology here, and she still didn't talk to him. She still didn't let him in. So he's like, okay, now what do I do now? He has to go on his tour. He's already committed to that. She's not going to pick up the phone. She's shown that she's not going to respond to those text messages. The mailman's always going to run, right? He going to show up, and he going to put that text message in that. He's going to put that postcard in that mailbox. So this is something that she will get, she will receive, and it doesn't need a response. It shows that she's still on his mind. I just think what happened at that door made him determined to make a better effort and try to do better, and the postcards were the result of that.
So on Facebook, when the postcards came out, something that came up was the fact that, one, everybody can see a postcard, and he signs like no type of pen name or something, literally signs Lil Murda. Now, it's not necessarily LaMarcus, where a good bit of that town probably knows him as LaMarcus if he grew up there. It's Lil Murda, which is a relatively new moniker that people know, like, what is this, in the last 6 months or so, with him getting his music played at the Pank. But this is a small-ass town. It's a lot to me to send an open postcard like that to the post office of a little-ass town like Chucalissa when you're supposed to be in with your name on it. Do you think that was purposeful? Like, do you think that might have been the beginning of him not caring about people knowing in some way?
Probably was. It was a little thing that he could do, because he was always, like, on the threshold of not caring. And then what happened with Rome and everything sent him retreating. But I think it was a even though she had told him she wanted LaMarcus and not Lil Murda, for him to put Lil Murda on the postcard would have been, you know, a outing of himself to maybe the mailman, the people in the mailroom, or whoever came across the card. And while those people probably really don't matter to either him or Uncle Clifford, it was something.
Yeah, because the reason why they're not together is because how Murda shunned her in the VIP. So him signing it Lil Murda is, like you say, sort of kind of putting that one foot out there, you know, which Cliff can kind of be like, okay. So you're not denying, you know, you're not denying. You're saying I look beautiful in red, and it's my address and it's my name, and everybody knows you as Lil Murda, at least a couple of people, and so it's given. It's a little give. Let me give a little shoulder shimmy and a little walk sass to it. So, yeah, I like that. 100%. I agree.
Yeah, I can see that as like a little dip a toe in the water, you know, a little offering of, you know, saying, hey, I am willing to sacrifice, you know, this career, Lil Murda, you know, for you or for our love, and just kind of like, because, yeah, he would have definitely had to think about that. Like, is this, you know, do I want to sign it this way or that? So I definitely think, like you said, in a small town, the mailman, and then think of like Grandmother Ernestine and how she talks to almost anybody. So you know that mailman, whoever the mailman is familiar, you know, with Grandmother Ernestine, Uncle Clifford, like that, because that's how the town goes. So I definitely feel like, you know, it was a risky move, but it was also a show, you know, like a tell, rather, to use that word, a tell that, hey, I'm willing to, you know, stick my neck out if, if you want me to, or if that would bring you, to me. I never thought about it like that. My mindset was always like, why the hell are you writing Lil Murda on the postcard? I didn't think about it like that until you guys said those things. So. Mm-hmm.
So if Teak hadn't unalived himself and Murda still hadn't gotten a response from the postcards, what do you think his next step would have been?
I feel like, okay, I think so. Are we looking at it as like he not even attempted, like he didn't even bring that up, or like, or are we just going from Murda was able to talk him off the ledge? Because I feel like he, in a moment of trying to save Teak's life, he was telling him, "We out of here. We're never coming back." That sort of thing. And I think it was mainly the panic of needing to, right there in the moment, say the things that was going to save this man's life. And which is kind of messed up because, like, once you do, then, now are you obligated or, to do exactly that? But I feel like he would have never, he wasn't over Uncle Clifford, so that would not have worked. But then if we never have even the threat of Teak's life ending, I feel like he would have continued to try to find his way, but he would have definitely had to been real with Teak, like, this is what I want. But I guess Teak knew that. He found the postcard.
And it's like, where do we end it at? Does it end at the diner where they walk away from this conversation and they go their separate ways and there's never the threat of suicide? Murda's next step is to go back to that door. Like, I don't think he goes back on tour without trying again to see Uncle Clifford in person before he leaves out of Chucalissa. Now, if that conversation ends and everything in the car happens and he's successful in talking Teak down, does he go to the door? I still think he has to go back there because that's where he wants to be. No matter, what this relationship with Teak is or will be if Teak doesn't kill himself, he still wants to be with Uncle Clifford. So I think he ends up back at that doorway no matter what. But then I think Teak poses a problem in them coming back together because Murda's focus is going to be there and trying to make sure Teak doesn't get back to the crisis that he was in and doesn't go through with the suicide that he had been threatening.
Period.
So I think it definitely depends on where the story goes, because if there is no threat, I do think this is grand gesture time. Like, because season 1, Murda is grand gestures all day long. Like, everything is the absolute most with Uncle Clifford. Mm-hmm. But we saw in season 2 a very a taming of that, from sending text and not just popping up, from popping up and not forcing his way in the house and forcing her to talk to him, from the postcards. So I think that if the postcards didn't get attention, or they did get, well, I don't know if the postcards got attention, but when she asked them, hey, it's getting crazy out here, are you okay? I think now it's grand gesture, and this might have been a semi-coming out. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have just been I'm popping up at the door and I want to leave a message. It probably would have been like the whatever Chucalissa R&B group is, he's pulling up with them. They on the lawn singing. It's her favorite flowers. Like, it's a whole grand gesture because there's enough attention, but it's like, now I really have to show her I'm serious. I'm done with the games. I'm done with timid Murda. I'm done with all this. I'm back to grand gesture and putting it on thick. If he succeeds in not killing himself, but that whole sequence happens, I think there is a period where Murda tries to make it work with Teak, but I do think something like what Tanika said, but he would not have been able, even in quote unquote committing to Teak or trying to make it work. I don't think that he can leave Chuckalissa again, especially with someone having died on the tour, without talking to her. And I don't know if I don't think Ja did. I'm pretty sure Kogi and Tanika did on Grey's Anatomy when Meredith almost died from that bomb. Like, she had her thumb on it that whole time, and then like the guy takes it out, and then like down the hall he blows up. And at this time, like, the McDreamy is with Addison, but shows up to Meredith's house that night and was like, "I'm glad you didn't die." Like, basically, like, you know, I really love you. Like, but I made this decision. I got to do this, but I need to let you know, like, I love you. I feel like it would have been something like Tanika said. I think we would have had a reimagining of that last scene after Teak. I think we have something similar. Murda shows up to the doorstep and says something like, "Yeah, I'm okay. How are you?" And then...
Appreciate y'all for listening to the show. You can find us on Blog Talk Radio by using the link bit.ly/Pink Sunday. For Apple Podcasts, go to pinksundayradio.com. Make sure after listening to the replay, you leave a 5-star rating in the review, as well as a subscribe. For Google Podcasts, go to pinksundayradio.com/Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify at pinksundayradio.com/Spotify. Hope to see y'all at the next episode.